right, folks. So hello. All right, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. So I'm sure there's other places you might maybe need to be. Anyways, you should have four things at your spot, right? You should have the first set of the APUSH review study guide, the first 40 out of 152 pages. All righty. Quite frankly, we were out of paper, all righty, in the copy room. So I was only able to copy the first 40 pages. I have the next 30 already done. I'm going to finish up the remainder of them after the review session. So you'll be getting the rest of the review guide as well. Obviously, this is a lot of detail, right? But we will spend some time going over this today in the review session. Normally, I'll ask you to actually cover the notes from this before we come into the review session in order to save a little time and be able to practice a little bit more. Since you just got it, obviously, we're going to be covering some of these pages today. Okay? Underneath that, there should be a course outline labeled Key Concepts as well. Now, I could have given you the blank version of this and had you fill in all the details. In the interest of time, I just went ahead and gave you the completed one. Really quickly, we'll go over this as well today. Alrighty? And then there's going to be some practice questions for us. There'll be practice questions that we will do collectively, alrighty, and then there'll be an individual set that we will do individually so that we can see how we do. Alrighty? So anyways, those are the four things that you should have, right? And those are yours, right? So let's begin with the redesigned exam, please. Let's begin with the study guide itself, alright? I cannot stray too far from my computer because I'm recording myself through the computer, all right? So if you notice that Mr. Majewski starts to stray, then just point me back to the podium, please, all righty? Because I do have a tendency to do that sometimes, all right? So anyways, let's go through the first few pages. I want to start here because these first few pages are new, all righty, on the AP exam. Obviously, how to use the study guide, I'm not going to read that, alrighty? But basically the information there is, it's not everything, alrighty? Although it's as much as they could possibly cram into 152 pages, alrighty? Then there's a nice little table of contents. Obviously, you don't have everything in the table of contents yet, right? Because you don't have all the pages. Good news, it's coming, alright? Then let's go to page 4, all right, the anatomy of the redesigned APUSH exam, all right, and that is where I would like for us to begin today, all right, because I want us to make sure that we are familiar with the AP exam before we start reviewing for Unit 1, all right. So, hey, I hope you all remember that the APUSH exam has two parts, right? There is part 1, and that is, of course, the multiple choice and the short answers. You will be doing the full multiple choice, and then there are 4 short answers still to do. Alrighty? You're going to get around 55 questions. Then you're going to do the short answer. They may give you a short break before the short answer, or they may just make you do the multiple choice and short answers all together. Alrighty? Then you'll take a break, you'll come back, and you'll do the essays. Alrighty? That is the DBQ and the LEQ, all right? So there'll be 2 portions or 2 parts to it. Multiple choice, you're going to get 1 minute per question, all right? Short answers, you're going to get 50 minutes to answer 4 of them. That is about 12 and a half minutes per short answer response, all righty? Now, when they score the short answer, they only score 3 of the 4, but you don't know which one they are not going to score. Alrighty, so you have to answer all 4. One of them is in there just for test reliability purposes. They use it to measure your performance against previous year's performances on the short answers. Alrighty, so anyways, you need to just operate assuming there are 4 short answers, right? Because you don't know which one isn't being counted anyways. Okay? And now specifically on to, by the way, multiple choice is 40% of your results. Short answers are 20%. Alrighty. DBQ is 25%. Alright. LEQ 15%. All right. It is possible to pass the test in a number of different ways. If you're not particularly strong or you do particularly poorly on one area, that is by no means a death sentence for you. There are many, many, many ways to still pass the exam under the circumstances. Alrighty. Then we need to at least take a look at that bottom chart as well. The years in which the course is set up and where your questions are going to come from. All right. It's very, very simple, actually. All right. 45% of your questions, I should say, all right, are going to come from the period between 1607 and 1877. All right. What are the significance of those two dates? What happened in 1607?
Jamestown.
Jamestown is founded, right? What happens in 1877?
End of the Reconstruction.
End of Reconstruction, right? That's the Compromise of 1877 that ends Reconstruction, right? So the first 45% of the test covers Jamestown to Reconstruction, or at least 45% of it does. Alrighty? And then 45% of it covers, this is kind of weird, 1865 to 1980. All right. Now you might be saying, wait a minute, Majewski, you just told me that the first section goes to 1877, and that's because it does. All righty. It goes through Civil War and Reconstruction. All right. The second unit begins with industrialization. Industrialization technically took place right during the Civil War, and so they go back and start the second unit at the end of the Civil War. What's that? Well, it really has to do a lot just with, remember, the policies we passed during the war lead to a lot of growth and industrialization after it. All righty? And that takes us all the way to 1980. All right? Which is where we're working to in class today. Then there's 5% from after 1980. And there's 5% before 1607. Okay? So again, it's a very small amount on Unit 1 and on Unit 9. In fact, if you're doing the math, there's only 55 multiple choice questions. 5% of that, if you're kind of doing the math there right, is about, what, 2 to 3 questions. Alrighty, that's it. So probably one source, right? And maybe just a couple of questions from Unit 1, probably one source and maybe a couple of questions from Unit 9, and then everything else falls between the two. Alrighty, so it is evenly divided, although obviously they give preference to the meat instead of the buns in history. Alrighty, instead of the very early beginning and the very, very end, almost all of the stuff they're going to test on is the big stuff in between. Alrighty, other questions? No, let's go to the next page, please. All right.
Oh, it's
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Hey, how well do I have to do on various parts of the exam to earn various scores? Alrighty. This is always a question that students ask me, and this is something I did want to make sure was available to you. Alrighty. Now the College Board has established approximate numbers that you need to reach in order to get a 5 score. All right. In order to get a 5 score, out of the raw possible score of 49, alrighty, and by the way, I should mention this is even better for us now that I think about it. For 2017, they're actually reducing from 55 to 49 questions, alrighty. Does that bother you guys?
That's worse.
Is it? I think that's probably better. All right. 49 minutes. Yeah, 49 questions in 49 minutes. What's that?
150.
I have no idea why they elected that particular amount. Alrighty, but anyways, in order to get a 5 on the AP exam, you would need to get about 39 out of 49 questions there. All right. I'm not a mathematician, alrighty, but that sounds to me like around 80%, alrighty? That would be what it would take to get to a 5, alrighty? You would also then need to get, on average, 2.5 out of 3 points on the short answers. Now, remember, it's impossible to get a half point on the short answers. So what they're basically saying there is, You need to get threes, 2 3s and a 2, right? Or right around there. In order to average that, you need to get a 5 out of 7 on the DBQ. You need to get a 4.5 or so on the out of 6 on the long essay. Got to be well-rounded. Alrighty. If you do a little better on the multiple choice, you obviously can do a little bit lower on the short answers or the essays. All right. Yes.
If we completely skip the LEQs, what do you?
Well, hold that thought. Alrighty. Let's go down. And by the way, these numbers change year by year. But let's go down and see what it takes to get a 3 to pass with a 3. Alrighty. Multiple choice, 27 out of 49. All right. And again, if you are doing the math there, that is less than 60%. It's closer to 55%, and that's what I've been telling you all year. Those of you who have not done well on multiple choice, you shouldn't measure it against traditional grading standards. You should measure it against what that would be on the AP exam. All right. Short answers, 1.5 out of 3 points on average. All right. So half the points, 50% of the points. DBQ 3 out of 7. Alrighty, so less than half of the DBQ points, and then 3 out of 6 on the LEQ, which is exactly half. All right, yes, sir.
So in grading scale, a 3 is a D to a C.
3 is a C grade, according to the grading scale. Alrighty, a 3 on the AP exam should equate to a letter C grade in the West.
Like in the standard grading system.
Yeah.
C.
Yeah, it would be a C. Yeah.
So, no,
55.
he means like how much percent, because that would
Yeah.
mean you have to get 70% of the questions right. 70, he's asking how many of the points to get a 3 on total. Is this like 70% of the points?
It's not. I think it's actually less than that, isn't it? Yeah, it's actually less than that.
So it's like a D grade.
Correct. I see what you're saying. Yes, it is. Alrighty, I didn't understand your question at first,
So
but
what's
yes.
the, like,
I'll find out. Alrighty, I don't think I've averaged it out. I just know what the multiple choice percentages are that you need to reach. Alrighty, but I haven't looked at all of the various results. I can definitely do that. Okay. Are there any questions for me about the breakdown? I hope you recognize there, it's manageable. Alrighty, it's very manageable to pass the exam, regardless of what your results have been. It definitely can be done. All right. Hey, then for the next few pages, all the way 5 through 11 and 12 and 13 and 14, 15, 16.
that's failing.
24, alrighty. All the way through page 24, what you're gonna notice is that it's all kind of pointers for writing, rubrics for the essays, that sort of stuff as well. All right? Hey folks, and then we get to page 25. That's gonna be an FRQ/DBQ study guide. What that tells you is, historically, throughout the history of the AP exam, how often have we seen questions related to these particular topics for either a DBQ or an LEQ? Now, please understand, this includes both the new format and the old format exam. So this goes back all the way to the 1950s, alrighty? On average, how often do we see questions about these particular topics? What's up?
2003.
This actually, the numbers, the estimates go back even further, alrighty? His specific information as to what year it was on the test goes back to 2003, but the actual averages probabilities go back further, alrighty? Anyways, all you can see is that there are certain categories that have a high probability of being on the AP exam, either in an LEQ or a DBQ form, alrighty? Yeah, I don't know if that necessarily helps you to prepare, but it definitely helps you to kind of know, okay, these are topics that they like to hit on, so I should expect that I should receive some sort of question on that topic, okay? Specific topics that are covered by the DBQ from 73 to 2015 are on page 26. Again, a lot of different DBQs. Now, I will go over the new format DBQs in class, all right? So the ones from the last few years we'll go over together so we know specifically what's been asked since the new format test. There's only a couple of those, all righty? Then page 28, you get your historical periods in U.S. history. Okay, and obviously today we're going to be covering the pre-colonial period, right? From 1492 to 1607. That is just 5% of the exam, alrighty? But it is an area that is traditionally not covered well, so we do want to definitely make sure that we spend some time on it, all right? And again, you're going to notice this is going to tell you the order in which the eras take place, right? So you can kind of know, hey, this feeds into the next unit, which feeds into the next one, so on and so forth. Those historical eras continue on to page 29, all right? Then you get a timeline on page 30, key dates. You'll notice there are not a lot of key dates between 1492 and 1607 on that timeline, all righty? And that means we're going to start today with page 31, Major Themes in American Society Relative or Related to Unit 1. Alrighty, which is 1492 to 1607. Alright, so let's go through these, just a few pages. There's not a lot here. Let's go through these few pages. Hopefully it's going to trigger a little bit of recall for us. Now, I acknowledge this goes all the way back to August, this information, alrighty? So we're going to really have to dig through the cobwebs in your brains to probably recall some of this critical information, alright? So the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, what did North America look like before the arrival of Europeans? Alrighty? We'll leave it up to you to decide whether it was better or not. Alrighty? If you recall, there were very few developed societies in North America. In fact, there were very few developed societies anywhere in any of the New World, right? North and South America were very slow to develop. Remember, they weren't able to be accessed until about 13,000 years ago, the end of the last ice age, when the land bridge opens up from Asia to North America. And so they're settled later than everybody else. And ultimately, let me move over here so I have it up on the screen as well. Ultimately, we see very few developed societies. The first societies to develop are sedentary societies, which means they are the first to develop agriculture, all right? And remember, in Central America, when we're talking about agriculture, we're talking about corn, we're talking about maize, right? South America, we're talking about potatoes, right, with the Inca. Central America, with the Maya and the Aztec, we're talking about corn, maize, all righty? They are the first to develop that, to domesticate it. That means they are the first to become sedentary, which means they do not move around. They are not hunting and gathering societies. All right? We call Middle America, Mesoamerica. Let's remember, they are the first to develop agriculture. That means they are the first then to develop other advanced techniques as well, because they're not devoted to hunting and gathering exclusively from this point forward. Remember, they are the ones that build the massive cities. Of course, the Aztec capital, right, Tenochtitlan, right, is considered to be the largest, alrighty? In the Inca Empire, if you remember, it was Cusco, alrighty, which is located in the Andes Mountains, alright? Anyways, they study math, astronomy, they're excellent warriors, they're able to conquer surrounding tribes as well, because again, they do not have to focus as much on hunting and gathering, on food production, because permitted agriculture allows them to produce more than they need. Alrighty? It also allows their populations to skyrocket because now they actually have the nutrition, the food to meet the needs of that growing population. Men and women worked alongside one another oftentimes in the fields in these societies. Remember, extra surplus was then traded for other products that were needed. please remember, over time, domesticated agriculture going to spread into North America as well, but it takes a lot of time, and so therefore North American societies, less developed, smaller, right? And they're considered semi-sedentary. If you remember, that means some of the year they move around hunting and gathering, other times during the year they grow agriculture. So they're kind of a semi-version of the sedentary agriculture that we see in Mexico and South America. All right? Remember, most North American tribes were scattered, they were isolated, they were relatively small. We would call them dispersed around the continent. They were mostly nomadic. And again, some of the time they might grow agriculture, but most of the time they're still hunting and gathering.
Nomadic.
Nomadic means you move around from place to place. You don't have a permanent home. Alrighty?
Generally following the food, right? So like
Generally following the food, yes. So our perfect example, hey, are the Plains Indians that are following around the bison, right? As the herds move around to find grazing lands for themselves. Okay? There was some agriculture that was practiced, but again, it was probably done mostly by women in North America. So that's a big difference between them and, for instance, the developed societies in Central America. Men were hunters, women were probably gatherers. We start to see tribes in North America, like the Eastern Woodlands tribes. Those would be the Cherokee. Women do the farming, and men would do hunting and maybe farm some of the time. Alrighty, remember, when Europeans arrived, they tried to force Native American men to farm. Remember, in the minds of Native American men, that's women's work, right? And that's not something that their gender did in their societies, and so they were resistant to those European efforts. The reality of it is, hey, Indian men had a lot of leisure time, alrighty? They hunted, and then a lot of the time they just chilled, and the women did a lot of the work around the clock, alright? Maybe not so different than how some of our lives are today, alrighty? Anyways, remember, most Native American societies were both matrilineal and matrilocal, alright? Matrilineal, remember, means that power is passed down on the woman's side of the family, if you remember, right? So who becomes the next chief? Well, it was determined based on the mom's side of the family's bloodline, all right? That didn't mean women took the power. That just means that the next male chief got that position based on his bloodline, not from his mom's side, all right? Native American societies are also matrilocal, all right? If you remember, property is passed down from women to the next generation of women. So women are the property owners as well. Both of these massively different, not only than Central America, but also massively different, obviously, than Europe as well. Both sides really struggle to understand each other when Europeans arrive. Alrighty? Please also remember that most Native American societies didn't really value property, private property. They only valued what they could carry since they were mobile nomadic societies. So extra property was wasteful, it was unnecessary. Please remember, they don't believe in individual land ownership, right? So land doesn't belong to us. We share the land along with everybody else and along with the animals. And so I have no claim to that land any more than the next person does. Tribes own land, individuals do not. Alrighty? Remember, there is nothing more important in Native American societies prior to the development of the arrival of Europeans than trade, right? Remember, they have massive, extensive trade networks that are far beyond their level of development, all right? They have these extensive trading empires. They usually followed rivers, if you remember. The Ohio, the Mississippi are the areas where huge trade networks develop. Remember, the most important people in your tribe were the ones who gave the best stuff. Alrighty, the ones who gave the best gifts. Alright? If you're wealthy enough or powerful enough to give that much away, then that must mean you're especially important in their society. Alright? Remember, you want to get in the great graces of a society, you showered them with gifts. Alrighty? That's like, that's how Samuel gets the girls to go out on dates with him. They got to give him gifts. Alrighty? Anyways, trade is like, hey, it's like a contract. It was not like a contract, I should say, in Europe. What we mean by that is, hey, you cut off trade with somebody, that was considered essentially a declaration of war. That's how important it was. They depended on trade with their rival tribes, with surrounding tribes, for the products that they needed in order to exist or survive. Alrighty? What were the civilized tribes in North America? And boy, you know Mr. Majewski hates to use that term, alright, because I'm not Alex, alrighty? So I don't believe in such things as savages, alrighty? But I hate to use that term, civilized, because it's such an elitist term, right? And it implies we're civilized, we know what civilization is, and these natives are trying to meet our standards, alrighty? But if we're talking about economic development, alrighty, then the most developed tribes in the North America were these tribes, and you need to know them, alright? You need to know the Pueblo, alright? The Pueblo,
Near Texas.
yes, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas border. Also Colorado, in those dry, horrific parts of Colorado in the southwest. Definitely along the Rio Grande. They were one of the first North American societies to develop corn, alright, to develop corn production. We believe it probably came to them from the Aztecs, alright? They developed elaborate irrigation systems, if you remember, because they're living in dry, hot, deserty areas, and they need to bring water long distances in order to grow the corn. If you remember, some Europeans actually used some of their irrigation techniques when Europeans settled this area as well. Alrighty? Remember, they built multi-tiered, multi-storied cliff dwellings. They would carve dwellings into the cliff face itself. This provided them shade, especially during the hot summer months. Remember, you access them through a series of ladders. There are still some wonderful cave dwellings in New Mexico and other locations. Okay, very good. They are considered to be one of the oldest societies in North America, one of the oldest permanent societies in North America. Again, because they are one of the first to permanently settle thanks to the development of corn, which came from Central America. Alright? The next group you need to be familiar with are your mound builders. Alright? I think it's easier to just refer to them as the Mississippians, which tells us where they're from, the Mississippi River Valley. Alright? They are sometimes called the Cahokians, alright? Because their largest city's name was Cahokia, and sometimes the entire group is just referred to as that, alright? Remember, these are the mysterious people, alright? They were the largest society in North America before the arrival of the Europeans, but remember, by the time Columbus arrives, they had kind of already disappeared, right? They had already died down and gone away. So how do we know they were there? Well, because we have all these remnants of their culture. Remember, they were the ones that built the massive mounds. Sometimes the mounds would house artifacts or dead bodies of some of their leaders. Other times, remember, the mounds would be carved into specific shapes. The serpent, right? The eagle mound, which are supposed to pay special tribute to the gods that they venerated. They had a massive empire up and down the Mississippi River Valley. We believe their largest city was the largest in the North America. Up to 40,000 at its peak. They would have a central mound, if you remember, sometimes as much as 100 feet high. They were the largest earthenworks ever built, and that's saying something because these were all done by hand. All right, there was no animal power that was used. It was all manual labor that was done. Iron tools start to develop, so not just stone tools. We start to see the emergence of iron tools. These people wove their own fabrics, so they're weaving their own clothing, which is a sign of development. And again, they bury their dead in these mounds, these collective graves. All right? A few years ago, Mr. Majewski was touring a Civil War battlefield and checked out one of these wonderful mound sites. Wonderful. Okay. No, the trade spanned, their trade spanned, folks, all the way from the Appalachian Mountains over to the Rocky Mountains. So again, this is a network that stretches much further than they actually were located. Again, we believe they were probably growing corn and potentially squash as well. All right. Let's get to our eastern woodlands tribes. They're sometimes simply referred to as the Atlantic seaboard tribes. These are the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Sioux, alrighty? The Seminole and the Creek. Again, these are peaceful tribes. They're much more peaceful than the others we've talked about up to this point. They grow the Three Sisters farming, if you remember. That meant that they...
Squash,
Corn,
beans.
and good old beans, right? They grow these three products, these three crops, in close proximity to one another. The root systems oftentimes would hold the other crops in place, for instance. They don't grow them in organized rows or anything like that. But these three products become the basis for their diet. They become excellent farmers. Again, they're known for being much less militaristic and more democratic than most of the other Native American tribes. All right? Please remember, these are the tribes, when Europeans do arrive, that do a much better job of blending or assimilating into American society, and they're better able to preserve themselves for longer that way. All righty? Questions? Yes, sir.
In the Eastern movement, that's the Iroquois, right?
It is, yes.
But less militant.
We're talking about the Atlantic Seaboard tribes as being less militant. Yes, you got it. Alrighty. The Iroquois are obviously our major opposite contrast to that, right? Yes, ma'am. No, okay, hold on. Alrighty. Is it a question about the notes? Alright, hold that thought. Okay. Anyways, the last major tribe you need to be familiar with is the Iroquois, right? They're located in the Northeast. They're located in New York, along the Canadian border. In fact, they stretch into Canada as well. All right. They were a powerful military confederation. Remember, they were an alliance of various tribes in the area. They too were known for using Three Sisters farming. They also hunted and gathered as well. The Iroquois, if you remember, were really well known for building those long houses, right? Remember the long wooden structures that would be sometimes as much as 200 feet long, all right? That would house many families living together under one roof. The Iroquois consisted of the 5 tribes or the 5 nations. They were united, if you remember, by Hiawatha, the original leader of the Iroquois. All right? Much more militaristic. Remember, their arch rivals are the Huron. When Europeans do arrive, the Brits arrive. Remember, the Iroquois are going to ally with the British, which means the Huron ally with the French. All right? Anyways, those are kind of some of the highlights of what was here, even if none of them we would describe as absolutely freaking awesome. Alrighty? Religious differences between American Indians and Europeans. Again, please remember, Christian view of things is developed based on the Bible, their interpretation of the Bible. Christians believe, again, that humans are kind of have dominance over animals and plants. Of course, American Indians have no single religion, I guess you could say. They have no written religion, right? They really struggled to understand the idea of the Holy Trinity. They didn't have any concept of heaven, if you remember, or hell for that matter. They thought they lived amongst the spirits of their ancestors. That's why living on their ancestral lands was so important. Because the lands themselves, they felt, were dominated by the souls, the spirits of those that came before them. All right? Differences in war. Remember, American Indians didn't really believe in European-style warfare. American Indians fought guerrilla warfare, right? Where small groups of men would fight against other small groups of men. They might capture a few people. They might kill a few people. They would take their prisoners back. And they would live to fight another day. That rarely were native tribes wiped out by one another. It was small-scale combat, usually a grudge that was being settled between two sides, usually a dispute maybe over trade. Europeans, however, resort to total war, right, where they wanted decisive victories and oftentimes fought with massive loss of life. Remember, Native Americans struggle to understand that. Native Americans do not respect Europeans' ability to withstand torture, if you remember, because in Native American societies, being able to withstand torture was a symbol of your kind of toughness, not only your own toughness, but also your individual tribes as well. Alrighty? Europeans struggled to be able to catch Native Americans, and so remember, what do Europeans do as time goes by? They're going to resort to more gruesome and brutal methods, right? Like the burning of villages in order to attract the men so that they can defeat the men in battle. European weapons, styles of warfare, deeply intensify warfare for Native Americans. It makes Native American wars much more harmful, much more deadly as time goes by. Alrighty? The goals of imperialism that you need to be aware of. First off, let's remember that European countries model their overseas possessions. They want overseas possessions because of mercantilism. That is the dominant economic belief in Europe at the time, right? Each empire, each European country wants to become self-sufficient. They want to produce all of their own goods. They want to increase their wealth by being able to manufacture their own products by using the resources from overseas colonies. Alrighty? Remember, the measure of your wealth more than anything else is gold and silver, and that's why European countries, when they arrive, are always so obsessed with finding gold in the New World. How each of those countries achieves their economic goal is different. Remember, the French?
For trading.
Trade, right? Trade first, specifically the fur trade, and then separately they're interested in conversion, right? But first and foremost, trade, especially furs. What do Indians get? They get firearms, they get alcohol. They also get things like pots, kettles, and trinkets, which we would argue are not very valuable.
Shiny buttons.
The French fur traders were masters of tribute. They recognized in order to get in the good graces of tribes, you needed to pay them extensive tribute. They were much better at befriending native tribes, if you remember. They would live amongst native tribes for periods of time. And oftentimes missionaries as well would live amongst the tribes. Remember, the missionaries in French society would intentionally subject themselves to torture so that they could prove their toughness to the tribe in order to try to convert the tribe over to Christianity. Yes?
Is that like hearing where the Jesuit went into talked about to the empire about how the natives weren't as bad? That was a what was that?
I didn't hear your very first part, the very first question. The first part of your
It was
question.
about a famous converter who was from
Jesuit, you're talking about, right? Yeah, a Jesuit, yes, and I can't think of his freaking name
Yeah.
right now. And what's that?
Yeah, that's Casas.
Well, he's not a Jesuit. The Jesuits were French. The Franciscans were Spanish. And I know who you're talking about, and it's
Yeah.
yes. All right, he's a Jesuit missionary living amongst the peeps. They were known as black robes, by the way, by the natives. Alrighty. Anyways, remember, Jesuits want to convert folks not by force but by example. They wanted to be models for natives, and that's why they lived amongst them, learned their language, befriended them in an effort to try to move them over to Christianity. All right. Anyways, Spanish. Remember, the Spanish's goals are conversion and exploitation, right? Which means take advantage of. Alrighty. What's up?
I thought it was the 3 Gs.
God, gold, and glory. Is that what you're thinking of? That's more, to be honest with you, of something that they use in world history for some reason, or Euro. It's an easy way to remember it, right? Religion, wealth, right? And prominence, right? But more than anything else, it's conversion and wealth for Spain in the New World. Right away, remember, the very first thing they're going to look for is gold and silver, right? They're going to knock out the Aztecs and then the Inca, right, and seize their gold supplies. We're going to establish Spanish New Mexico, if you remember, in 1598. We're going to kill off a lot of the Native Americans. When I say we, I mean the Spanish. In Spanish New Mexico, it becomes known as the Pueblo Revolt, if you remember. They want to Christianize Indians. They develop a mission system out west, right, in order to try to speed up conversions of Christians out west. Of course, the most famous example of Spanish exploitation is the encomienda system. Remember, it was run by the Catholic Church. It was a forced labor system where Native Americans did farm work or did mining work. In exchange for that, they were fed, they were housed, and they were expected, obviously, to practice Christianity as well. This is a very harmful, exploitative system. We know, of course, De las Casas is key in informing the Spanish king and queen and the public as a whole about the atrocities of the encomienda. Alrighty. Positives, hey, it wasn't all negative. Europeans do introduce horses and livestock to the region. However, the major problems, of course, are disease, right? Over 90% of the Native Americans die. Not just the Pueblo, but all Native Americans during this era. Other effects of Spanish colonization, interbreeding, interrelations, right? We see the development of the new mestizo society, right? European and native blood, all right? Please remember, one of the big highlights of Spanish control in New Mexico is the Pueblo revolt. Remember, the natives there rise up against the Spanish governor. They drive the Spanish out. It takes the Spanish over 10 years to retake the Spanish New Mexico area because they have so few people there. Alrighty. England, obviously, remember, the English policy is going to be removal or extermination, although to be honest with you, I won't really cover much of the English today because that's really the lion's share of what we cover as part of our next review on Thursday. Hey, please remember the highlights or the lowlights if you're a Native American or someone that cares about them. 90% of American Indians die in about the first 100 years that Europeans arrive. They have no immunities to diseases, and so when European diseases hit them one after the other, it wipes out populations. They drop like flies. Yeah.
When did Europeans start smelling better? You know how they were.
I think what the hell kind of question is that? I don't know if I don't know if we can label all Europeans that way.
They smell just European.
I don't know. I'll let you know when I visit Europe
What if
extensively.
they just fling their secretion out the window?
Yes, but we're talking hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Yes, the people in Europe are not the characters from Beauty and the Beast anymore. All right, they're modern folks like ourselves. Anyways, hey, Europeans introduced horses, guns, alcohol, Christianity. What did Native Americans send back? Well, important crops like potatoes, corn, cocoa, coffee are all major products that are shipped back. We call this process the Columbian Exchange, as you know. The exchange of microbes, goods, plants, animals, from the New World to the Old, and vice versa. You really need to know the Columbian Exchange. They love to ask questions about it. Horses, yeah. Nay, yeah, alrighty.
The one that died in the war.
Hey, the very last thing I want to mention, and it's not in these particular notes, but let's remember the idea of the black legend as well. Alrighty? Right, that the Spanish were particularly harsh, abusive, and exploitative of Native Americans, and that they were particularly evil, I guess you could say, or worse than other European societies. Please remember, De las Casas' writings led to this idea, all right, even though he didn't necessarily believe it. And remember, Europeans like Britain and France used that as a reason to try to portray the Spanish in a negative light, all right? So anyways, a few pages from the notes there that kind of hit on what we were just talking about with some of these early differences between Native Americans before Europeans arrive, all righty? Questions up to this point? Okay, hey, let's go over to the second packet that I gave you now. Let's go over to the course outline sheet. Alrighty?
That one horse fatality at Fort Sumter.
The horse. Never forget.
The horse. No, I stuck with to make room for me.
Oh, okay. Alright. Hey folks, these sheets here, alrighty, that I just gave to you are, listen up please, shh. these sheets that I'm giving to you here are really, really invaluable, and here's why. Alrighty? Invaluable. And good news, I have one for every unit. Alright? Because, hey folks, when AP writes a question for the AP exam, a multiple choice question, it has to come directly from their course outline, or at least the topic has to come from their course outline. Alright? They publish their course outline, and it's this. It's the key concept up at the top, and then these categories to the left. Alrighty? So, the key concept is there at the top. Alrighty? And you'll notice I sometimes put these in the PowerPoints as well with the summaries. Alrighty? And then specifically, this is how you demonstrate your understanding of that key concept. Alright? So, for instance, the first key concept they say it's important to know for period 1 is as native population migrated and settled across the vast expanse of North America over time, they developed distinct and increasingly complex societies by adapting to and transforming their diverse environments. That's the general idea. Alrighty? More specifically, different native societies adapted to and transformed their environments through innovations in agriculture, resource use, and social structure. Alright? How? The first thing the College Board says is important to understand there is the spread of maize cultivation from present-day Mexico northward into present-day American Southwest and beyond supported economic development, settlement, advanced irrigation, and social diversification. And then this side here tells you how that occurred, or specifically how that occurred. Alright? So this is describing the general pattern or trend that occurred, and then these are telling you specifically how that happened. Alright? So as you are reviewing for these units, you want to go through, what am I supposed to know? Alrighty? And then, okay, this is specifically how that concept actually happened, specifically in history. Alright? So what I would recommend every person do here for about the next 10 minutes or so, go through this real quickly and read it. You can read it individually or read it with your table mates, alrighty? And kind of go through and piece together the path in which Unit 1 took place so we can remember the key parts about it. I'm going to set a timer for this. Alright, you at home would do the same.
Are there any important you need to know on this time period?
Not so much from 1492 to 1697. I mean, the obvious ones. De los Casas. Alrighty. Pizarro, the man who conquered the Aztecs. Right. I'm sorry, Cortez. Yes, Cortez who discovered that, who conquered the Aztecs. And Pizarro who conquered the Incas. Alright. Thanks for the warning.
You're already past. We're already past it. You guys
Did I hear Magna Carta out over there? Did I hear the Magna Carta out over there?
No.
Oh.
I think you got it.
Okay, so we are going through the concept outline. It's just here.
You gave this to us last time. You gave this to us. Oh, no.
Oh, you have good memory. You have a good memory, guys. Good for you. You hated it. You guys hated it. Oh, yes. So I went back to the old regular question, which you also hated. Alright. Apparently you hated that slightly less than you hated these. Alright.
I know the moments too. At first we're friends, and then they're like, no, this is not gonna happen. This is not gonna do anything.
Alright. We're friends with the pilgrims. No one cares.
They're like, fire. Fire 2 years ago.
I was already I don't know.
You like to
Whoever does her mom.
They were all good except for the like.
Stay focused.
Mine, they're the ones that.
the caravels. You're the one that
They got cards.
Oh, comienza, you got here during the Babe, you missed.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, it's like just like
How's everything? Savages, food, Our greatest accomplishment was giving the savages measles-filled
So you'll notice key concept 1.1 is really, hey, what was up with native societies before Europeans arrived, right? And then you notice 1.2 is, okay, what happens in Europe that allows Europeans to get here when they do, alrighty? And what impact did that have on natives and Europeans when Europeans did arrive, okay? That one is lengthy. I got it, yeah. That one is lengthy because, well, quite frankly, there were a lot of effects, alrighty, of European involvement in the New World, alrighty. You definitely want to get through these, alrighty. You definitely want to go through them here. A lot of critical information that is summarized here that you want to read through. Didn't matter. Doesn't matter. Never. Yeah, seriously.
maybe a horse.
What was that thing called when Jamestown had like several winters where they didn't survive?
What was it called?
Cold winter.
Snowy winter. Probably could think about it.
Wasn't that like 5 or something?
Yeah, something time. We're getting there. Sorry, time. Sorry, time. Like in relation to the American
Present day.
Era. We call this the era of postmodern conservatism. 1980s is the rise of conservatism again. Well, work on it, alright? Start making some nationally historically important things happen. Alrighty? Okay, there we go. You should have. Okay, are we still working our way through that, brother? Take your time. I would rather you work through the course outline for a few more minutes before we start the proof. Alright? Hey, stop Snapchatting. Alright? Instead everything was before. I'm gonna be number one on the page.
Hey, $10, that's not.
Mein Kampf.
Frida, can you guess which one's mine?
Mayo.
Not Aries.
What was that? It was sheep.
I know, right? Why?
Sheep. Was that your uncle or something?
It was. Yeah, it was a nickname we get.
Mayo.
Alright, we're gonna go another one more minute to sign up. Alrighty? Now hey, you don't have to sign up. You don't have to play. You can continue to go through the course outline if you'd like. Alrighty? But if you are not playing, you're not giving answers out. Alrighty? Nobody is sharing answers or anything like that. Alrighty? So, let's.
Restart the app.
Don't start.
FDR can't
That's not his fault. Rest in peace, horse. Who did that one? Just realize that. I think so.
John, are you jail?
You didn't put the extra eye.
Hey, I don't know who Kevin's corn dog was, but I deleted you. Alrighty, so you better re-sign up if that was you. Alrighty. Alright, let's get it started. Ready?
Oh, you go.
Who was known as the most or the biggest critic of the Imperialism system? Sorry there, folks. Right? Remember? Hey, who is the dumbass that said Columbus? The Pope? Alright. What was Spanish territory in the American Southwest known as?
Southwest.
Yeah, the American Southwest. What was the portion of Spain's territory in the American Southwest known as?
That's not what you want to ask you. What area?
Okay, now listen up. Hey, shh. All of Spain's possessions in the New World were New Spain. The portion that was above the Rio Grande, that will be later part of the United States, was referred to as Spanish New Mexico. Alrighty? So that's the area where present-day New Mexico is today. Identify which of the following best describes the Cherokee tribe. Remember the Atlantic seaboard.
Oh yeah, you got it. Right behind you. Right behind them, standing to the chat.
Hey, those of you who said the blue answer there, you're thinking of the Iroquois, which is close. Alrighty, they are both along the Atlantic coast, slightly different. What was the Spanish encomienda system? What was it? A system that made natives priests in the Spanish church. Forced labor system using natives. A system that used black slaves on sugar plantations. A system that exchanged goods from the old to the new. Yeah.
I read so slowly.
All right.
Jazz? Whoa.
This country settled the New World before anybody else. All right, you needed to read the course outline that I just gave you.
Oh, wait, wait, if I got the obvious choice, then I got it wrong.
Wait, is Holland Denmark?
Okay.
They are the first to have overseen the empire, but Spain to establish it in the New World. Remember, Portugal was in Africa and Asia. Ready?
America? Like America?
Future United States possession. Hey, please stop and think about this. If the Spanish are significantly ahead of everybody else in colonizing, they took what they wanted, and then England and France and the remainder take what they can later. St. Augustine, yes. They settled St. Augustine in Florida as a fortress, a base to protect all of their possessions in the Caribbean.
I
Alright?
thought you meant was the first part of America to be settled.
Yeah.
That, like,
What'd you put?
Virginia. I thought it was gonna be about Plymouth.
that's what I thought you meant. I was like,
Identify which of the following best describes the Pueblo tribe. So it does break down pretty much about wow, that's really low when you stop and think about it. I mean, 79 not so much, but
wait, no, my first.
Six, seven, eight. Dude!
one person better not miss this, right?
They also called me the Cocker who boards.
Too many signs.
I think that might be
Just a sign.
That looks way too good on you, I'm not gonna lie. I can do that. You like an antenna. Yeah, like a stinger. Alright.
Six, seven, eight.
Wait, is that 2-speed or from speed?
Two-spin. And not the Spanish gold and silver, right? French furs, English tobacco, at least it
Shit, Rich was true.
northeast.
Hey, listen up. There wasn't just hunting and gathering going on. They were using some Three Sisters farming in that area as well. All right.
I read Ravages and Savages. I don't know what because I was laughing so hard. It's just me. I laughed so hard at my joke that I liked it.
Who's Hernan Cortez? Okay.
Yeah, he's dead, isn't he?
Isn't everyone here?
That's so devastating. Stop distracting me.
I'm creeping up on you, man.
I think I pressed the wrong one.
Guns. I didn't even look at all the else.
Every time the word.
There's two of them.
That's it.
Who is Hernan Cortez? Who is Gump? Oh, Boo? Who is Potato? All right.
Oh wow.
Not to sound like a jerk, but I feel like I could have pretty much predicted that actual final table. All right.
You're not the only one.
Final
Yeah.
table.
Top fives.
All right. Top five, sure.
Michael who
Wait, top 10.
Mine comp.
Michael who hacks.
Alrighty. And Hamilton. Alrighty. Who's Mein Kampf? Oh, somebody thinks they're really, oh, okay, there we go. Alrighty. Somebody thinks they're funny enough to post it, but not enough to own it. Alright. Anyways, not bad. Alrighty, not bad at all.
Wait, would you leave that one question
If no one wants to be my mom, I'll take it.
about the North
Hey, let's do some practice actual new format multiple choice. Alrighty. Let's grab
Brenda.
not this one, but this one. Alrighty. Let's grab section 1 multiple choice questions. And let's start on the first 10 of those, please. Alrighty. Actually, let's make up the first 11. In class right now. No, individually. Alrighty. 1 through 11 on multiple choice, sample multiple choice questions.
Wait, period 1? Stimulus?
No, the other set. Yes. All right, folks, I'm setting a timer. We got, what, 11 questions, right? So 11 minutes, if we even need that long. Yeah, get started. Oh, you might want to actually see the images. compared to what it was doing before.
Yeah.
That's what that would answer.
Struggling to see that?
Such a bad drawing. Damn savages.
It's about the Europeans.
You can keep on going if you're done with the first 11. Alrighty, I just wanted to just do the first 11 you said. Alrighty.
Which one's which? It's so funny when we talk about compromise and peace, because he knows on it.
True.
Yeah, while we're at it, we might as well do 12, 13, 14, 15 as well. Alrighty, let's do De La Casas while we're at it. Alright. see that image there for 16. Oh, I guess you can. Which one? What? Yeah, keep going. Ooh, that's a good one. 15. Just keep going. One. Just get through. Yeah. I'd say get through them all, but if you can. No, I'm gonna go over with you. I'm gonna go over them with you.
Do you even have to read it once? No.
I'm gonna have to read it to you
You have to read these?
in order to answer the questions. They're designed for that.
I haven't read it.
Just answering questions without reading the passages.
Yeah, I never read
Okay.
passages on this.
Alright.
I'm watching
The same. People load the same, they blend together. As many as you can get done.
How many minutes are we? 17.
That's a good question. I should probably check right now. Probably expired. 1.5 minutes. So hey, we've only gone for about 10 minutes so far. All right, so if you're ahead of question 10, right, then that's a sign that you're actually moving a little bit of a better speed. All right. So get through as many as you can in the next 1.5 minutes. All right. They're good questions.
So this one, like there's 3 and 2 that are like the same thing. I just read over one.
We're not gonna crazy. All right, with this guy, he's driving me crazy. All right. All right. Hey, let's stop there. All right, let's stop there and let's go over some of these answers. Alrighty. So hey, I don't know if anybody remembers. If you do, you got a great memory. But questions 1 through 4 and 5 through 7. Yes, they were actually on one of our first exams. Alrighty.
We're supposed to keep it?
Well, I don't think I allowed you to. The other ones were not. They're new. Alrighty, but I did want to recycle some of the questions you may have seen again. Number 1. The excerpt describes effects of the Columbian Exchange. It's talking about the exchange rights of products, but most importantly, it's talking about animals, right? And I believe at one point, without reading through it extensively, does it actually reference diseases at any point? No. Number 2. American Indian societies most commonly reacted to the changes described in the excerpt by B. Adapting European material goods while attempting to preserve some of their cultural autonomy, right? So hey, try to get the best of both worlds, right? Hannah Montana style, right? We're gonna try to take what's good from the Europeans, while at the same time try to preserve our cultural identity as well. 3. The process described in the excerpt most affected European nations through C. Significant population growth and economic development in many parts of Europe, right? While the New World dies off from the Columbian Exchange, Europeans get bigger, stronger, and more populated from all of these new nutrients they are receiving. Number 4, Europeans most typically explain the process described in the excerpt in which of the following ways? C. They viewed it as proof of the higher level of civilization among Europeans. After all, if these savages are supposedly our equals, they would survive, right? That's kind of the mindset there.
Asking a cancer person to live like no.
Right? If you were really my equal, right? If you were better than me, I'd be dying in your presence and not vice versa. Alrighty? To be honest with you, 5, 6, and 7. I probably ought to have saved for the Unit 2 questions, but whatever. We're gonna challenge you a little bit here ahead of it. Number 5. In the first half of the 1600s, American Indians in Virginia and Maryland most typically responded to English colonization described in the excerpt by any ideas?
B.
It is B. They defended their territory against the English. All right. I'm surprised. That's a very specific question for the new format AP exam. Number 6. Which of the following was a long-term result of the situation in Jamestown described in the excerpt?
B. Right?
A.
C as in cat. Alrighty. Right? Hey, it's talking about in the passage, Alex, about how Europeans couldn't rely on natives to work because they were not reliable workers, they didn't survive. And so therefore, it's going to lead to C, the switch over to the plantation system and African labor. Number 7. Compared to New England, early English settlement in Virginia and Maryland was characterized by A. Lower life expectancies, a larger population of indentured servants, and greater gender imbalance. Hey, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that question because it was a little ahead of the review anyways. Let's go to number 8, which is not. Alrighty? In this drawing, the encounter between Cortez and Montezuma appears to show C, reverence for the Spanish. Do you see how Cortez is seated, right? And he's being presented with tribute by Montezuma and the Aztecs. The most significant, number 9, the most significant initial impact on the Native American population from interaction with Europeans came from
B. Death.
B, old world diseases from which they had little immunity. Like people in the room are like, ha ha ha, if they're not in 5th period, they don't know the Alex. Alrighty. Number 10. By the way, you screwed it up right there, Alex. You forgot. Normally it's ha 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 ha, death. Alright, number 10. The Aztecs' religion and sacrifice rituals were D, seen as horrid and abominable by the Spanish explorers, right? Another sign that Europeans had a higher level of civilization in the minds of Europeans. Alright, number 11. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the Spanish Empire in North America.
D.
I'll tell you what. Alrighty. Honestly, A is the suggested answer there.
Wow.
D ought to work there as well. Alrighty. Yeah. Yeah, they did, except technically encomienda did still occur in the 1600s as well. Yeah, 1500s and 1600s. A is probably the best, but D would work. Alrighty. Hey, let's go to the De Las Casas reading really quickly. According to Las Casas, what was the most important thing the Spanish could do for the Indians? C, convert them to Christianity, right? They needed to be converted and protected, he said. Shh. In their attitude towards Native Americans, the Spanish generally, what do we put here? A is the best answer, alright? Although I'll be honest with you, I think you could make some arguments for some of those other answer choices as well, alrighty? But A is the suggested answer, alright?
Why?
Because it validated a lot of their preconceived notions that the natives were inferior to European civilized men, alrighty? They were kind of simple, alright? They were easy to teach. They seemed like kind of dumb, even in De Las Casas' mind. 14. How were Las Casas? Yes, sir.
For 13.
Yeah.
Spanish, generally Spanish.
Yes.
Were like the harshest, right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't it be me?
Because I don't think they disregarded native customs, alright? I just think that they took them, they just considered them to be
They acknowledge enough to
inferior.
massacre them.
Yeah, I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't love that question. It's not my question, by the way. So I do think that D has some legitimacy. To be honest with you, I think that B has some legitimacy there as well. All right, so I don't love the question. Brenda, what were you thinking?
Oh, just with D, because even in the first paragraph it says wisely ordered by excellent laws, religion, and custom. So like they were acknowledging that they had some
Yes,
virtues.
very good, excellent. All righty, perfect answer. All right, she's absolutely right. All right, number 14.
De Las Casas was like, they didn't show the whole portrayal. Like, that's not how majority of the Spanish people.
Correct. His interpretation was not necessarily reflective of all Spaniards in that he wanted Spaniards or Indians protected. All right, but his characterization of natives as simple, alrighty, as kind of docile, is very much reflective of European
Right, but
views.
what he's saying is that reading the passage, like, to prove that D is incorrect doesn't really.
But it does, right? Because isn't he saying there, hey?
He's saying that, I put A, but
Yeah.
he's saying that De La Casas is not representative of the whole Spanish population, so to say.
But I think his comment there is reflective of Spanish population, of typical Spaniards, alrighty? I would agree with you in that his basic, hey, his conclusion is very different than most Europeans. But I do think that his characterization there is pretty reflective of how Europeans, and particularly Spaniards, viewed it. Regardless, I'll acknowledge it's not a great question, alrighty? Let's get to 15. Hopefully, yes, this one was, I thought, better. 14. Sorry. Jeez, people. Good Lord.
Let me be the first to say.
Sorry, my gosh. All right. It's like 14 is like your bread and butter or something. All right. Hey, how were Las Casas' views of the Indians different from the views of British settlers in North America?
D.
D. All right. I was more concerned about the spiritual and religious improvement of them. Which makes sense. He's a Catholic priest. All right. Shh. 15. How do Las Casas' views on American Indians compare with those of the U.S. government after the Civil War? Ooh, good question. D as in dog. He was primarily concerned with their spiritual improvement, while the U.S. government hoped to assimilate them so they'd behave more like white Americans. How many of us were able to get through 16 and 17? All right, let's go through those really quickly. Obviously, that is an image of an Indian woman who is suffering from a disease. You can see the marks on her skin getting worse and worse. Smallpox, most likely. All right. 16, the image above. Shh. So it shows the direct effects of
Columbian exchange.
B, the Columbian Exchange. All right.
Just kidding.
And 17. The image above, or the image shown above, provides evidence for the argument that
D.
Alright. The arrival of Europeans in the Western Hemisphere in the 15th and 16th centuries triggered extensive demographic changes. What does demographic mean? Population changes. Alrighty.
That also implies that the slave trade would increase
She's supposed to be a European woman. Alrighty. Supposed to be a European woman. Alrighty. Yeah. And she, see how she's not getting sick? Alright.
and Africans migrate more. And
Now, hold up here. A couple of things here. There's a bunch of other extra questions. Alrighty. Those are for your benefit. They are not a requirement. I will post the correct answers to every one of those on Haiku. If you want to take those questions on your own time, 1 minute per question. They will be up all the way till the AP exam, so you can use them to review for that unit at any time. So, all of these questions are practice questions, new format, and I will post the answers. If you need an explanation, let me know. Okay? Alright folks, excellent. Alright, good start. We got a lot to cover in our next couple of units. As soon as I possibly can. Alright? It does take a while to upload them and stuff, but I will. What's up, buddy?